virgin who can't drive. Anyone remember that part, right? So I thought, well, I know not having a license makes you pretty like uncool, so I guess being a virgin means that you're like a really big nerd. I wasn't really sure. Okay, Varsity Blues. Yeah, throwback one. Okay, so the reason I included this one is because I saw this movie and there's a scene where the head cheerleader is trying to seduce the head football player, the star football player, and she walks out in a whipped cream bikini. Anyone know what I'm talking about? Yes. So I'm watching this again, thinking like, is this what I'm supposed to do? Like, when in my relationship am I going to have to walk out in a whipped cream bikini? Really not sure what I'm going to be doing. Anyone see this one? Yeah. All right. And there's like 10 apparently American Pies. I only knew about this one because that's what I watched. But you all know American Pie is all about sex, and the main character starts as a virgin in the series and wants to know what sex is about, and his friend's like, oh, it feels like warm pie, and his mom bakes pie. Anyway, you get the point. So a lot of my views on how real life is going to be, how high schoolers in other places would behave, came from kind of these movies. So in my head, I imagined college looking more like this. So when I got to school, I thought, I'm going to have people having sex in the library, on top of books, but you can't be too loud. Anyone? No. Ludicrous. Never mind. All right. Well, you guys, way over your head. All right. People like doing it in the bleachers at a football game. I Googled that trying to find a picture that was more, accurate to what I was saying, but this is the most PG thing I could put because it was my work computer, and the other stuff that popped up was not cool. And then I heard, I thought like, okay, I'm going to also have that really horny roommate who's going to put her sock on the door, like, GTFO, go study somewhere else, I'm getting it on right now. And I would have been this guy, I forgot his name, Scumbag Steve. I would have been Scumbag Steve that just walked in like, I don't know what's going on. So I totally thought college was going to be like this, and I'm going to pause my story at that, and we'll get back to what happened when I go to college. But you all can kind of see how like girl from small town develops their idea of what sex is supposed to be based off of pop culture. So I'm going to give you all permission to pull your phones out right now. We're going to take a little survey. So how about we just shout out answers? How many of you think 80% of Cal State Fullerton students have never engaged in anal sex? 80%. Okay, thank you for raising your hands. Good. All right, 40%. Oh, 40. Okay, you. 20%. All right, and then 70%. Okay, so it's pretty even across the board. All right, so if we go back to the PowerPoint real quick, you guys can look back on that. Right there, yes. No. There. No. Okay, that's what I get for trying to be all technologically friendly. All right, anal sex. You want to know the answer, right? Yes, you fell asleep during this. Okay, 70% of Cal State Fullerton students reported having never had anal sex. So that means 30% have. 3 out of 10. All right. So this one is percentage of students who have never engaged in oral sex. I'm just gonna have you all shout it out again. 6% never had oral sex. 6%. All right. 26. A lot of you think that one. 56. All right, and 46. Okay. Let's just go back to the PowerPoint. Here we go. 26. A lot of you got that one right. Why do you think there's such a difference between the number of people who have had oral sex versus anal sex? Oral is more acceptable. Apparently it's funny. What else? All right. We're going to move on to the very next question. And I'll tab that one, please. And a third one. This one should work, I hope. If it doesn't, we'll shout out again. Okay, so this one is how many people you think have never engaged in vaginal sex. And this could be, vaginal could be like a penis and vagina or vagina. Vaginal sex. All right. Great, thank you all for responding. So, all right, so those of you who think that 30% of students have never engaged in vaginal sex, 30%. All right, 70%. Nobody. All right, 10% and 40%. A lot of you think 40%. Okay, let's see what the real answer is. 30%. Okay, what type of sex is happening more often? Oral sex has happened more, right? All right, so why do you all think oral sex has won this race here?
Because people don't think they can get like STDs or anything from oral sex.
Okay, so some people may think you can't get STDs from oral sex. False. Okay, what else? Yeah.
You don't have to waste money on condoms.
The good news is you never have to waste money on condoms because we give them away for free in the health center. And we give away flavored condoms, so for oral sex you can have safer oral sex too. Yes?
Some people might think that they're still a virgin.
Yes.
To save your virginity.
Right, so for some people, maintaining their virginity is really important for various reasons, and for them, like, oral sex is okay, but vaginal sex is not okay. I've actually had people come to me and say, like, my partner and I are going to do anal sex because we're waiting till marriage. And I'm like, okay. All right, you do you. I'm like, I will help you figure out the safest way to do this, but we should maybe, talk about all of our options. Any other thoughts on that? Yeah.
Girls can't get pregnant through oral sex, anything like that.
Okay, so pregnancy and STDs are like the biggest concerns that most young people have, and with oral sex, yeah, you can't get pregnant from it, so that's a benefit, right? But we know we can get STDs from that. The reason I had you all do that is because we often overestimate how many people are engaging in different health behaviors. And I talk about sex, so that's the one I chose. But it's the same for alcohol. We usually believe that more of our peers drink or binge drink than they do. Smoking weed, and even things like pulling all-nighters. So I remember in school, like, I like to sleep. I don't know about y'all, but I like my bedtime and nap time. And I don't pull all-nighters, but I thought, like, man, maybe I would have straight A's if I just stayed up all night and studied, but I never could. And I want you all to know that whatever you are doing, it's okay and it's normal. So, let's see. We're not going to get into that right now because I know you want to know the rest of my story, right? What happened when I went to college? Some of you are still paying attention. All right, so when I did go to college, I was actually really happy to see that people weren't having sex on every single surface. I did have a horny roommate with the doorknob thing, but it was okay. I had friends in the hall. I studied in their rooms. But my idea of what college was going to be like was definitely different. I met lots of people in my hall, in my classes, that were virgins, and I was like, oh man, I wouldn't have been the only person here that was a virgin. And I wouldn't have been judged for it either, because in high school, especially with only 41 people, it's really easy for people to gossip and make you feel a certain way about your choices. But in college, especially a school where I went 50,000 students, no one knows who you are, nobody cares. I had an experience when I was a resident assistant. I busted a party, and this kid was so angry that I busted his party. He said, hey, do you know my sister Heather? And I was like, no. And he said, well, she's going to ruin your social life. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, you're still going to get in trouble for having so much alcohol in your room. I can't really do anything about that. Needless to say, I never met Heather. My social life was just fine. But yeah, college is a lot different from high school. Do we agree on that? Yeah, so much better. So let's talk quickly about sex. Why don't we talk about it more?
People are uncomfortable.
People are uncomfortable. What else? Why don't we? You guys don't want to talk about it? It's too personal? Yeah? There's stigma attached to it. All right, so there's lots of reasons we don't talk about it, but I'm going to give you a few reasons why we should. All right, so the first one I have is testing becomes normalized. So with any relationship or new partner that you have, it's really important that you actually have a conversation about getting tested for STIs and that you go do that together. It can build your relationship and your trust. But it's a weird thing to say on a date, right? Like, hey, have you been tested? Because people are like, well, what do you think, I've got something? But the truth is that you could only have one partner and you could get an STD. So it's not that you're blaming somebody or assuming something about them. It's that you're taking responsibility for your own health. Another is that pleasure becomes a priority. I was listening to a radio show the other day, and this lady was saying, like, man, my husband's really bad at oral sex, and we've been married for 7 years, and it's, horrible. And they said, well, have you ever told him that you don't like it? And she's like, well, no, I don't want to hurt his feelings. But I'm sure he would like to know that he could probably do better, so they can enjoy it. If you're going to be married to that person until you die or whatever, you kind of want to enjoy your sex life. So it's important to know how to talk to your partner about what you like and what you don't like. You can worry less. So how I was so worried about being a virgin or not going to college, had I talked to more people, maybe I wouldn't have been so concerned. Whatever situation you're in is normal. Whether you have lots of sex, you have lots of sex with lots of people, you're not having any, you're waiting for whatever, maybe you're not interested at all. There are other people like you at this campus, and that is okay. And another thing about worrying less is, let's say you have an STI diagnosis. 1 in 2 people will have an STI by 25. It can be a really scary thing to go through. You can feel isolated, you don't know who to talk to, you really just feel like you're going through the whole thing alone, and you're embarrassed. If we were talking about sex like we're doing right now, you would find out that, hey, 1 in 2 people have an STI by 25, half the people in this room have probably had one at this point. So let's talk about it, okay? It's, we can kind of talk about that and bond. You can also talk about the really embarrassing things that happen, like when your partner went down and you accidentally farted. You talk about it and you're like, oh my gosh, that happened to you too? Okay, I don't feel so isolated, alone, or so embarrassed because that's happened to you too. Great. All right, you can be more comfortable with your decisions. If you know all the different things that you can do or not do or you want to do, you can make comfortable decisions. All right, if I had sex and lots of sex before I went to college because I was scared of being a virgin, I might not have been comfortable with that decision. And then practicing safer sex is easier. Right? I thought you were about to jump on stage and yell at me. I'm almost done. Practicing safer sex is easier because you know how to have that conversation. What's our plan? Are we going to use condoms or are you on birth control? You can have that conversation in advance because you're comfortable talking about it. When I do presentations, I talk about sex, I talk about vaginas and penises, I think about it as the same as like heart health. When I talk to students, I don't picture them having sex when they tell me a story about their sex life and they have a question. That's weird. I think about it like any other thing, like, oh, my heart is aching, oh. So if I was their doctor, how would I think about it? Am I going to think about their beating heart? No, that's weird. So talking about sex makes it easier. And not everyone's doing it. All right? Do you have any questions? Well, it's okay. If you don't have any that you want to ask here, I left my business cards out there. You can make an appointment and talk to me. I get all kinds of questions all the time. And like I said, you're normal, however you are. But in case you're wondering where I got my data about Cal State Fullerton students, we do a survey with the American College Health Association every 2 years. It's the National College Health Assessment. And you can find it on the Student Health and Counseling Center webpage under Health Education. All right? Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Carrie Boyd. Wonderful presentation. And we'd like to present you with this token of our appreciation for coming out today
Love it.
and presenting us with a wonderful presentation. I'm sex positive, right? Isn't that
Yeah,
the term?
that's the term, yeah.
That's the term. I'm sex positive. Have sex, enjoy it, talk about it.
You're comfortable with whatever you choose to do, right? So we can all be sex positive, whether you're doing it or not.
I'm actually positive I'm never going to have it again. But thanks so much.
Thank you.
Carrie Boyd! There's nobody to introduce me, so what should I tell you about me? What do you need to know? I'm from New Jersey. That's all you need to know. Tonight, I'm going to talk to you about choice. And so I have a question for you. How many days? How many days? How often have you heard that question? How often have you thought about that question? You probably don't even know what I'm asking you. We measure our lives in years. How old are you? I'm 47. I'm 32. I'm 18. I'm 65. But have you ever thought how many days? I saw a posting a while back on Facebook that said in any particular day you have 86,400 seconds. What are you going to do with those seconds? What are you going to do with that day? How many days? I've thought about this a bit, and I can tell you that I know exactly how many. exactly how many. How many do you want? Because it's a choice. Living is a choice. Feeling is a choice. Life is a choice. And we get caught up and distracted by other people's impressions of what life should be and how we should live our lives and what you should do with that life. And you don't think that you have a choice. So I have to go do this. I have to go to DMV. And you know what a drag that is? So I'm going to talk about choice. I'm going to talk about the past, present, and future, and I'm going to talk about waiting. And the problem is, I think one of the biggest problems is that we make a decision before we even get to the event. Whatever the event is, whatever's going on for the day, we make a decision whether it's going to be a good day or a bad day, or whether it's going to be a good event or a bad event. I hear so often from students that have to, I teach GE classes, I teach general ed, and you have to take this class in order to get a degree. And I hear so many students tell me, oh, I have to take a GE. I hate poli-sci. Why do I have to take poli-sci? And before you even walk into the room, before you even hear the professor speak, before you even meet your other classmates or find out what the material is, you hate it. Walking into the room, you hate it. Think about that for a minute. That's a choice that you've made before you've even gathered any information. You realize you're doing that? Why? I was flying back from Grand Junction a couple of years ago. I did a couple of presentations and a book signing, and I had two flights. I had one from Grand Junction to Phoenix and another one from Phoenix to LA. And you know how flights can be a pain in the ass? I mean, they can be fun, but they can be a pain in the ass. And you're squashed sitting in next to people. I tried my best to get aisle seats when I was looking for them online, and I couldn't get an aisle seat, and I had a window seat, and it was all the way in the back of the plane. And I made a conscious decision that I was going to enjoy the flight, and I was going to, whatever was going to happen that day, it was going to be to my benefit, and I was going to enjoy it. I wasn't going to look down on it. I wasn't going to say it was going to suck and that it was going to be terrible. I wanted to have a good day. And I knew I was going to be cramped in a plane, so why exacerbate the fact that I'm going to be cramped in a plane by saying it's going to suck, by looking at it in a more positive perception, with a more positive way, and say, you know what, I'm going to enjoy this flight for whatever it has to offer me. Unfortunately, the first leg of the flight, I did have an aisle seat, good for me, but the guy next to me was huge, huge. Young man, probably, I would say 6'5", 6'6", 300 pounds, maybe more, maybe 350 pounds, huge. And so I sat in the seat, said hello, and I shook his hand, and I talked to him. He seemed like an awfully nice fellow, but he seemed quite embarrassed by the fact that he was so huge, sitting in an airplane seat. And I kind of leaned into the aisle for the hour. But I had a new iPhone, so I was fooling around with that, and I got distracted, and I enjoyed it. And then I rushed to the gate for the next flight, because my next flight, I had a window seat, and I said, I got to get on an aisle. I got to be able to move around the plane. And they didn't have any seats for me, so I was stuck at the window. So I went in, I sat, waiting for the plane to take off. I pulled out a book I was reading, and a gentleman came in. And he shook my hand and introduced himself. And he said, what are you reading? I showed him the book I was reading, and he took genuine interest, immediate genuine interest. He actually took out a piece of paper and he wrote down the title and the author. I thought that was kind of strange. He got that interested in what I was doing. So then we talked about it for a little bit. We talked about what the book was about and how I was enjoying it. And I had just published a book. I was coming back from Grand Junction from book signing. So I thought, oh, why not? So I reached into my bag and I said, this is a book I've just published. You wrote a book? Yeah, I did. This right here. And he was so cool. He said, just give me a second. And I swear to you, this is the way the guy did it. He sat in his chair, And he slowly paged through every page of 200 pages of this book. He slowly paged through every page and stopped at the chapter titles. And then one particular chapter title that's entitled, Living with What You've Been Living Without. He said, why has no one thought of this before? And I thought, wow. I thought of some shit that no one thought of. I loved it. I was like, well, thank you very much. I don't know why anyone has thought of it before. And then he asked the same question in French. Don't ask me to do it because I don't speak French. But he asked the same question in French, and I said, you speak French. And he spoke 5 languages fluently, and he could speak 3 others conversationally. I was impressed. So then, we keep talking a little bit, and I forget that I'm sitting at the window. And I forget that this is a flight that might suck, because now it's become enjoyable. And I think part of it was because I invited it in. I invited it to be enjoyable. But we talked for a little while longer, and he turned to me and he said, well, just so you know, I'm a book publisher and I would really like your contact information. Couldn't have got any better, right? So a flight that could, I have to sit at a window, and a smelly guy next to me, and somebody farting. Well, Carrie mentioned farting, so I guess I could mention farting. And then it turned out to be wonderful. And why is that? Did I let it in? I wonder if I went in with an attitude that it was going to suck, if it then would have sucked. Tell me if you don't do this. There are events that people have decided ahead of time that are not going to be good for you. Jury duty. Should we do show of hands? How many people love jury duty? Love jury duty. Just can't wait to go to jury duty. I don't see a hand up in the room. One person. Thank you very much. A true patriot. Really? No. You don't know. So you're bullshitting me. Okay. Well, look. Think about this for a minute. I'm at the section where I'm talking about waiting because it's all a choice. It's all a choice. You don't like waiting at DMV, you don't like waiting on lines, you don't like waiting at the grocery store because you got to get out of there because you're a busy person. Oh my God, you certainly don't like waiting during jury duty because jury duty is a whole day of pretty much you're sitting there doing nothing. And people hate doing that. Would you believe me if I told you, well, I used to, but would you believe me if I told you that lately, I don't wait. I don't wait. I used to wait when I was younger. I don't wait anymore. How can I do that? How can I not wait? Because I enjoy the moment. Think of how much of your life you decided was going to suck before it even started, before the event even took place. You decided you weren't going to have a good time. You went in with a bad attitude. You had a terrible time, and you wasted that part of your life. I don't wait. I enjoy every second. Every second. So I had jury duty a couple of years ago. And I brought a book, but I also brought my personality and my enjoyment of meeting other people. And I met some interesting people, had some nice conversations. Didn't get to sit on a case that particular time. I sat on a case a couple of years earlier than that, and that was fascinating. But I met some interesting people, and I met a really interesting man. And he said he owned a restaurant. We got to talking, and then we took a lunch break, and he said, let's go get some lunch together. So we went and we got some lunch together. And he had a little bit of a limp as he walked. And I brought it up to him at lunch. I said, I noticed you have a limp. Was that an injury? What was going on with that? And he said, I have Parkinson's disease. And I've never met anybody with Parkinson's disease. I've never talked about Parkinson's disease. I didn't know anything about Parkinson's disease. And this was a wonderful opportunity because the man was open to talk about it. And he did talk about it, and he shared part of his life with me. And that was a rich experience, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. And yet, some of you go to places like that, and you don't want to interact with other people because it's a chore, it's too much work. And yet you're miserable because you're waiting, because you have to be there. All of that is a choice. Now, there are people that miss this moment because of that. This moment right here, right now, the present moment. Some of you live in the past because somebody did something to you, or they were better times back then, and some of you live for the anger of the past. Some of you live for the pleasure of the past, but you're not living in this moment because you want the past to come back, or you want some revenge for the past. Some of you live in the future. You're not living today, you're thinking about the weekend. How many people are already thinking about the weekend? It's Tuesday, I can't wait for the weekend. I can't wait for the weekend. Well, guess what? You're going to have to wait for the weekend. But why wait? Why not enjoy every moment up to the weekend and then enjoy the weekend? Mondays are not a bad day for me. People go, Monday, oh, Monday. Shit, I'm Monday. I get a chance to live again today. I get a chance to go do my gig. I get a chance to talk to people. I get a chance to interact in life. How many people are still living in the past? Let's see a show of hands. You're thinking about stuff that happened, that boyfriend that broke your heart, that girlfriend that left you standing there, that mom and pop that didn't do something, and you're still waiting for them to love you. How many people are living in the past? Yeah, there's a few hands. How many people are planning for the future? You can't wait for the summer. You can't. I couldn't. Okay. How many are here right now? Living in this second, right now. Not as many hands. Well, I see you. Yeah, hi. Yeah. And I think that's great. Because those of you that are living in the past, living in the future, you're missing this moment. And there's a lot of cool moments right here, right now. This is the only moment you're alive. Eckhart Tolle has a wonderful book entitled The Power of Now. And he says, why are you concerned with the past? It's just a story. That's all it is a story. You can't do anything about it. There's no time machine. You can't go back and change things. And the future doesn't exist. The future does not exist. Oh yeah, you can make an appointment for next Tuesday, or you have an assignment due for next Tuesday. But really, in this moment, the future doesn't exist. It's not tomorrow yet. And why worry about it until tomorrow comes? I mean, yeah, plan for it and stuff, and don't not pay your bills and shit, but you know. Yeah? So I thought I was going to keep you here for the entire symposium until about 9:30, and we're 15, 16, 17 minutes over that, and I haven't seen the light flash yet, so I don't even know where I am, but he's checking. Oh, now he's flashing the light. Thanks. Sweet of you. So I'm going to leave you with, what am I going to leave you with? Oh, a couple things. 2 things, actually. How many days? How many days do you want to live? I know that's an odd question because people don't like talking about death, and they don't like saying, oh, I want to live to be 85. I want to live to be 102. I want to live to be 67 or whatever. I mean, there was a old Who song long ago that some of the lyrics were, I hope I die before I get old. Some of you might know that song. I want to get way old before I die. And I want to live every day. That's how many days I want to live. Every one of them. And I'm starting with this one. In the words of the Dalai Lama, he said, there are only 2 days of the year where nothing can be done. One is called yesterday. The other is called tomorrow. So today is the best day to love, believe, be, and mostly live. Thank you. speakers and everybody to help put this together. I've got several student volunteers here. I've got colleagues that have helped put this together, the wonderful speakers that took part in the presentation tonight. Give them a great round of applause, please. And some of them have agreed to hang around. There's lots of information out on the table, and they would love to hear from you and love to interact with you. So please feel free to have a couple of minutes and chat with them as you leave the theater. Thank you so much for coming.